This is the Bijan Robinson we were promised. Yes, looking at Bijan Robinson, 5 straight weeks of 20 plus PPR point games. He's the number 3 running back overall in the season, number 1 over that stretch that I just mentioned. He has had no less than 3 receptions since week 3. He has had over 100 total yards in 5 straight games. Guys, what we have been getting out of Bijan Robinson is everything we hoped we would get from him as a rookie. Yes, I know last season was okay, wasn't amazing, wasn't terrible. And I know the beginning of the year was just, but I remember saying week 1, this usage feels like he can only go up from here. Now, granted, did he have a couple games that were still a little lackluster as Kirk Cousins was getting back into this offense and the team was melding and all of the, yes, all of that is true. But from what we've seen over the past well over a month now, is that Bijan Robinson is getting elite usage and he is putting up elite point totals. This is the king we were promised. Welcome, Bijan Robinson. Let me touch on something that blew up a few weeks ago. A little less than a month ago now, Dynasty Nerds tweeted out a clip from one of our shows called Call Me Crazy. And it was a segment where we took a little bit of a hot take on something that we thought other people might not agree with. So knowing that, people still did not care. I got berated for saying at a valuation of wide receiver 8 that Brian Thomas was being valued too highly. And in fact, I'm not sure that he is even going to be the top pass catcher in his own offense. And that was referencing Evan Engram. Evan Engram being back spelled bad news for Brian Thomas. I get it. One of these games did have Mac Jones, but over the 3 games since that clip has posted, Thomas has been wide receiver 27, wide receiver 59, and wide receiver 67, averaging 8.3 PPR points per game. In that same stretch, in those 3 games, only 11 targets, not a single game with more than 4 targets in it. Evan Engram, conversely, is averaging a little over 12 points per game in that same stretch. And targets over that stretch, 23. So more than double the amount of targets for Brian Thomas. I said I would rather in Dynasty have Wilson, London, Reed, Smith, and Rice. Rice has obviously been out, but in Dynasty, all 4 of those guys have outscored Brian Thomas on a PPR basis over 3 games. 3 games, small sample size, totally get it. But I think this validates the point that was a good moment to sell Brian Thomas Jr. high. Now, things could easily flip, and they're already trending that way. Soon, Brian Thomas could once again become a value. It's not always about I like player A and I dislike player B. It's I dislike how they're being valued right now. And now, Brian Thomas, pretty soon, if he keeps this up, and with Mac Jones at the helm, probably so, he could once again become a value. If people are no longer going to value Brian Thomas Jr. as a wide receiver 2 in Dynasty, well, then I'm back in because I think that's roughly where he should be valued. Roughly at wide receiver 16 to 18 type of range, I think is a very fair range for him. But I would just have other players that I would value higher. And I think we're seeing over a small stretch that that's looking to be true. CMC returned this past week. Yes, Christian McCaffrey, he has been a godsend for fantasy managers. And yes, maybe it wasn't the most massive fantasy game ever for Christian McCaffrey. Yes, it was very solid running back 2 type production, but it's the usage that gets me really excited about CMC. 13 carries, another 7 targets in the passing game, so 20 touch opportunities here, and then 88% of the snaps went to Christian McCaffrey. So this was his role. He went back to being the full-time bell cow back, and it looks like he should be back as one of the best fantasy football options week in and week out. Russell Wilson, don't look now, but Russell Wilson is kind of looking like his old self again. Over the past month, on a point per game basis, Russell Wilson has actually been quarterback 10 on the year. Quarterback 10. That's really pretty nice. 19.3 points per game. He has made this offense, not only has he been effective for fantasy football. You can put him into your starting lineup and feel good about it. But he's made guys like Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, and of course, George Pickens once again fantasy options. So as much as I like Justin Fields, it seems like the best thing for fantasy football overall is with Russell Wilson at the helm. This one's tough. Caleb Williams, he's just not been getting it done lately. And at some point, we do have to start saying it's not early anymore. This has just been not good play out of him. And I get it. Running backs haven't been great. Wide receivers have been okay. Offensive line, not great. Like there's a lot there. And maybe I'm not giving DeAndre Swift enough credit. He's been fine. But all of that being said, Caleb Williams is not the franchise altering quarterback at this point that we expected him to be. In fact, he faced off against Drake May in this game. And Drake May, the guy that was drafted later on in the draft and went to what everyone considered a significantly worse scenario, just won head-to-head against Caleb Williams. So at some point, we have to start saying, should we be worried? And I think there is a little bit of worry there, not to the point where we're going to completely abandon and give up on this kid, but there is something there that has me saying, man, should I have drafted him at the top 101 spot? Should I have considered, obviously, Jaden Daniels, but even another quarterback like the guy who went head-to-head against in Drake May? How worried are you about Caleb Williams? How are you feeling about CMC? Do you still think I'm crazy about Brian Thomas Jr.? Let me know your thoughts on all these things and more in the comments below.